Hey everybody, it's hwsteele, and today's February 6, 2020, and in this video I want to talk to you a bit more about the law of vibration. Specifically, we're going to talk about music again to help us quantify the law of vibration in a way that's applicable to markets, so it can help us with that, forecasting and trading and so forth. So let's go ahead and get started here. In this video I want to talk about semitones. A semitone, also called a half step or a half tone, is the smallest musical interval commonly used in Western tonal music. And the important thing that we need to look at here is that it is a 12-tone scale. Now previously we looked at this right here, the octave, which is a 7-tone scale where the 8th tone is the doubling of the original vibrational rate. We have the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And then here with the semitones we have a 12-tone scale. So what's happening is we actually have the same 7 tones that we used before, but we add 5 more to them in between the tones that we had previously. So you can kind of think of semitones as the space between spaces, as some of them are that in relation to the octave as we looked at it before, but not all of them, since some 7 of these 12 tones are actually pretty much the same tone as those 7 notes from the octave that we looked at before. So if we look at a keyboard here really quickly, just a quick picture of it right here. Let me blow it up, make it easier to see. We see the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do right here. And then we have 5 extra tones right here. But you'll notice something here. You'll notice that between E and F and B and C right here, we have no semitone. There's no semitone in between here. So let's go look at this right here. And we see that that equates to no semitone between mi and fa, and no semitone between ti and do right here. So there's a semitone here and a semitone here. These are the equivalent of the 2 black keys together on the piano. And then we have no semitone here, and then a semitone here, a semitone here, and a semitone here, which is the equivalent of the 3 black keys together on the piano. And just to point it out to you, do you remember how we talked about the names of the notes previously, how the do and the so are related by the fact that it's 1/2 of one half of an increment raise or lower from the original vibrational rate, and how the fa and la are the 1/3 and 2/3? Well, remember how I said mi and ti are actually related, but I wasn't going to go into it in the previous video? Well, this is how they're related. There's no semitone after mi, and there's no semitone after ti in this scale, because this is, if we look at the keyboard on the piano, this is the first one here, no semitone, and then this is the last one here with no semitone. So this is information that we can actually use down the road, and we still have this guy right here all by himself, so that's important too, and we'll cover that later, much later, but it will eventually get there, or we'll eventually get to it. So that's the big thing. Well, one of the 2 big things is we need to know that there's a 12-tone scale and a 7-tone scale, and we need to look at the ratio of each of these steps in the 12-tone scale, which is, we're going to go ahead and use the decimal here. Each tone is 1.05946 times faster in vibration than the previous tone. So if we, as an example, if we take this number, there we go, 0.05946, and multiply it by the 13 tones to get to double the speed, we notice that obviously we're not double in vibrational rate right here. from our original, whatever the original might be, 100, 200 hertz, whatever. But the reason for that is because this is not additive, meaning you don't just add this number over and over and over again, you multiply it. So the example would be if you have 100 as your original number, you would then multiply that by 1.05946. That becomes your new number, and then you multiply the new number by 1.05946 and continue to do so. And then 13 times later, if you multiply that by 1.05946 13 times, you'll get to 200. Actually, it's like 199 point something. It's very, very close to 200, but it's not exactly precise. Because this, multiplying this, each vibrational rate by this is the equivalent of the equal temperament scale, which is just fine for our intents and purposes at this point in time. So that's what we need to come away with in this video to arm ourselves in the future for looking at the markets with this information. So we need to realize that we have the 7-step, then we have the 12-step, which consists of these 7 steps plus semitones. And when I say 7 steps, it's 7 unique steps, 8 to the doubling, and the 12 tone is 12 unique steps in the 13th to the doubling. And that the naming of the notes has to do with it has information encoded into it, I guess you could say, that becomes relevant to us later. The do and so are the 50% and 100%. And the fa and la are 33 and 66%, and the mi and ti are the beginning points of the 2 tones in our 7-tone scale that do not have semitones in between them because of where the ratios of these tones are relative to the rest of the ratios. So let's remember this number, the fact that this is a 12-tone scale, and the fact that this is a 7-tone scale. So now that we have the basic information down, we can go ahead and move on to the actual application for the markets.